I don't understand that. And then you have the employees, you say, come to me, I'll help you, come to me, I'll help you, but they don't come to you. They go elsewhere, and they wonder why the problems aren't getting resolved the way they'd like them to be resolved. So, those are kind of where I came from with this program of talking about how to be more strategic. Is first of all, we have to understand how people perceive us. I love it. My favorite thing is I'll be sitting in an office, a client office, and you're typing away on your computer, you're working really hard, and this is what you get. Trisha, are you busy? Well, of course. See, you hear me typing away, telling the manager that I told you not to do something, but you did it anyway, so let me clean it up. We sit and play cleanup person all the time. And so we can't get to the strategic things that will help sustain the business, which, Mel, will sustain the people. So
that's good.
If we can get to those points where we sustain the business so we can sustain the people, it will be in a much better place. I'm not saying that interruptions are a bad thing, because we need those sometimes.
Yeah.
But I do believe we need to teach more of our employees and our management to fish. When I did this program at SHRM-23, the most interesting thing that people found to be interesting is that we think our people managers know how to be people managers. I'm going to tell you they don't. They probably learned from another manager who may or may not have had any empathy or care, or didn't know how to speak to people, who may have learned from another manager, who learned from another manager, but they don't know how to interact with people. It's one of the hardest things you would ever do. I told somebody, I said, would you rather, be in a room with 6 2-year-olds and just learn how to walk and put everything in their mouth, or a room with 3 managers? They go, I'll take the 2-year-olds all day long. That's a sad statement, right?
I also think that people really feel like if the manager has never gone before, like they step into the role and the manager maybe has never gone before them. Oh, there you are.
I'm so happy.
Yeah, I wasn't joking that I had a really amazing team that would figure it out. I just, my phone, my watch is going off, my phone is going off, the Teams is going up. I'm like, they're going to figure this out. I'm just going to ignore all this.
So hi again.
Hi again. You look beautiful. A lot of people struggle when like a new manager comes into a workplace or into a position and they've never walked the walk, or they've never done that job before. So then they come in and they almost are immediately perceived, like you said, as a delegator or as somebody who's here to tell you what to do. And we talk about this. I talked about this on my last show. Managing people doesn't mean manage the people. It's like invest in your people, care in your people, give back, show the way, pave the road. And so it's interesting what you said. I'm curious to know your thoughts. What is the very first perceived or perception of a manager to just a basic employee?
They don't know anything. They don't know how to do this job. They've never done this job before. They have no idea how hard it is to do this job. What were they going to do when I call in sick? Well, let me call in sick and see what they do with it.
Oh, they test almost like a parent and a kid.
Right. One of the things I kind of laugh about this, during the pandemic here in California, we were all stuck at home. So you had to find something to do. And most of us sat around and watched all of Netflix, right? My husband got me into Star Trek because he says there's a lot of leadership lessons. Look at it from that perspective. And when I did, I'm like, oh, wow. Because there was this one particular episode on Picard where he had a new number one. That's his first mate. That's the person. And instead of, the saucer that's on the Star Trek ship.
I'm really bad. I've not watched one thing of Star Trek, but I know what you're talking about. Yes.
It actually separates. And his job was to dock the saucer manually, which, they have all the technology to do it. But his job was, okay, number one, dock it manually. And that was his very first thing to show all the other folks on the ship, I can do this job. And I can do it manually if need be. So you can trust me. It was such a great episode. There's so many different episodes like that. And the perception from the employee to manager is that they're not an employee, they're a manager. But no, they get a check and have to be at work and follow rules and responsibilities just like everyone else does. And that perception of us not being all in together.
We immediately think that it's like this. right?
Mhm.
Instead of
Mhm.
just thinking, this could be my co-part. We could walk together. We could achieve things together. Like it's automatically, you're right, this perception of hierarchy and bigger and better, and I'm here to serve you, and that mindset that it's kind of negative, like right out of the gates. And so how would you recommend, or what would you say or recommend for either, well, both sides of that, the manager, like how would they show up? You know, when you take a new job, they say, what's in your 30, 60, 90, right? They always do this. Like,
Yeah.
what are your plans, Trisha, now that you're a manager with your 30, 60, 90? What would you say new managers should do in order to create the right culture and perception in their new role?
First of all, empathy. So much of it is lost over these last few years. We just are not empathetic towards others. We need to practice true active listening. I mean, I'm a big believer in new managers need to go on a listening tour or even skip level meetings to just really kind of dive into what's going on. I want to hear you, because our employees want a voice and we need to allow them to have that voice. And a new manager can go in and start listening to those things versus coming in, do this, do this, do this, do that. They will create a better collaboration, which will help sustain the relationship, which will help sustain the company, which will sustain the people. It's about having that relationship, and not too close of a relationship. There's a fine line there, right? But understanding their perspectives. Something as simple, Mel, as asking somebody, hi, how are you doing today? And wait for the response. Don't keep walking. Don't look the other way. Wait for the response. We don't do that anymore. What I make new managers do is that exercise of good morning and wait for a response. Good morning. How are you? Wait for a response. Get into that habit of not just good morning, and keep going. Get into the people aspects of the business and understand that person's perspective. Because we all know, fictitious name, real person, when Jerry's not having a good day, we all know it, but nobody talks to Jerry because they don't want to have the uncomfortable conversation. And that's what I like so much about Bree Health. I think it is tomorrow's way of solving some of these people issues, because we're all going through something at different points in time. And we need help, but we need to normalize getting that help.
So good. And connection, I think, empathy, absolutely, but we're not connecting with people. Everything is so surface. We're clocking in, we're doing our job, we're doing what we're supposed to do, but are we really connecting with people? Are we really helping? Are we really serving? Like, we don't have very many jobs in this world, real jobs in the world, but serving and being a light and being good and being, connecting with other individuals is way bigger than probably doing the task for your CEO. Because to your point, it's a trickle effect, right? It all drives productivity and it all equals what that bottom line is. And we don't put those things together. And for our listeners, I know you gave Bree a plug, super appreciative of that, but that's what Bree Health stands for. It's let's stop ignoring that people need help and that life is being thrown at us 24/7. Yes. We can't stop life. So just give them an outlet to be able to have a comfortable, without the stigma of traditional therapy attached to it, and let them have conversations with coaches, certified coaches, to move them forward. And why do you care as an employer? Because it affects the productivity, the culture, the morale, the relationships, and the revenue, the bottom line to your organization. It's all interconnected.
If we don't help sustain that human being, they can't help sustain the company, which sustains the people. It's all interconnected. And I think, I say this to HR all the time, we're coming up on national elections. We need this help now versus next year, because people have lost the ability to have conversations about things that they don't agree with. And we don't think, folks, this is not going to trickle into work. I'm sorry, it will. We've seen it. We know it. And this is where HR needs to be just a touch more proactive and say, okay, this is coming. And how do we help our employees with how they're feeling, what they're doing, who can they talk to about their sense of comfort? Because these are all difficult conversations that many of us believe that there are bullets in the law that says we can't talk about it at work. I'm sorry, that's not true. And it's going to happen. And so how do you help your employees get through this? Your manager's going to come to you and go, Jerry's talking about that stuff we're not supposed to talk about anymore. This is where we have to help our managers going, okay, this is how you facilitate a difficult conversation, and when and where those conversations happen. We spend so much time cleaning up behind what our management and leadership does. After we've told them you should do that, and they go, okay. And then they turn around.
When you say we, who do you mean?
We in human resources.
Okay.
In human resource leadership, we spend a lot of time saying, well, let's look at this. And I think we should do it this way. And this is the best way. And many times.
Always strategizing.
Many times they do something different. And we're just like, but we told you that if you do that, this will happen. And that happened. And then we sit up and we have to go back and clean it up. And this is where we, HR, has to have the understanding of how people perceive us. And we have to start shifting that paradigm of thought. And part of that is agreeing with them. I know you see me as human resources. You think I'm here to protect all employees, but Mr. Manager, Mrs. Manager, you are an employee as well. I'm here for you. Hi, employees. I know you see me as part of management, but I'm an employee right along with you. I stand middle ground. I go with the right side. Talk to me. I'm a human being. Let me see if I can help you through this or get you the help that you need.
I love that.
And it starts by really just identifying who we are and then getting with our managers. I was talking to some HR professionals. They said their biggest thing is they want to terminate an employee for performance, but we ask them for paperwork and they don't have any. Human resources, think. If they were never trained on how to deal with people, what makes you think they know how to do a write-up the right way? I provide templates to all my managers. I make no assumptions that they know what to put on. I make it so easy. If it's attendance, you fill out the name, the date, what we hope from them, what we expect from them, and let's move on with life. By doing that, it not only solidifies the process, it helps the manager that didn't know and didn't want to tell you they didn't know because they got the title as manager. It helps the employee by outlining, this is what happened. This is what we're going to do to support you. This is what we need from you. And we don't have those conversations anymore. We wonder why people are doing the things they're doing.
It's a game plan. It's if you just follow the game plan, then it's going to be, there's comfort in that too, from the employee side of things, right? Getting reprimanded, but then not understanding why, or even if you did, what's the next steps and how do I get out of this icky situation? Like that game plan makes me feel, I'm playing employee in my head right now, like makes me feel like, okay, they actually want me to win. Because I think that's a big deal too. This relationship, they don't necessarily, employees don't necessarily believe that management wants them to win or wants them to succeed. And that hurts. So what are we doing as HR professionals in management, as a leadership team, to make them feel like, hey, you're human, stuff happens, not saying it's okay, but stuff happens. Let's not discount that. What are we doing to make you feel supported and that this is something that we can move forward and we can step into something greater versus constant? It's again, I keep thinking of the mother-child relationship or the parent relationship. Like my kid messes up a lot, but it's okay that he messes up as long as we learn from it and we have a game plan to not repeat that.
And
to move forward.
Management and leadership and organizations come to HR and says, oh, we need to get rid of this person. They've been calling out sick a lot. And I go, let's take a pause. Let's do the family litmus test. If you had a child, mother, brother, sister, a family member who wasn't feeling well and didn't feel good enough to go to work, what would you tell them? Oh, I'd tell them to stay home. I said, okay, so let's back up to this employee who's calling out. Should we have a little empathy? Let's find out what's going on. Maybe they need assistance of some sort to help them through whatever's happening. Oh, no, they were just out late last night. I said, were you there? Do you know that for a fact? We don't know what people are going through. We don't know what they're walking through. There's so much of it. And we need to I keep going back to that word empathy because Johnny C. Taylor Jr. from SHRM, the president and CEO, uses it all the time. And it's just so true that when you're talking to management, they go, want to get rid of this person, And I'm like, if this was your child, your mother, brother, sister, someone that you loved, would you want them to be treated that way? Wait, let's pause one step further. Do you want to be treated that way? I'll wait. And I sit and wait for them to really just kind of digest what I'm saying. They go, what do you suggest we do? Okay, what kind of training did they get? Well, we were really busy and shorthanded when we hired that person, so they just kind of got thrown in. I said, okay, so we failed them. It's failure number one. So how do we help them get the training that they need? You know, I say the same thing when managers, right now we're having such a problem with talent acquisition, hiring across the board, across the nation, I would say almost across the world. And people talk to me, managers say, well, I want somebody with 2 years experience and blah, blah. I said, okay, if they have 1 year and 8 months experience, is that enough? They go, okay, I'll take that. I said, well, how about 1 point? How about 18 months? And I keep going down. They go, okay. I said, and then I always say, how do you get credit if you don't have credit? And they go, huh? I said, you're asking for people to have experience. Maybe they're trainable. You know, maybe we need to give more opportunities to those that have not been given opportunities versus the ones that are trained. And if they were so good, why are they not over there? You know, there's so many things that
was a big conversation with former President Clinton, right? At SHRM. He talked about that. And then talking about, and then Scott, on my last show, we talked a little bit about, or sorry, no, the SHRM influencers. We were just talking about like credential, like unless the job requires legal, medical, right? Stuff like that. Like it requires you to be a doctor. You need to have like, a PhD then. Okay. But if it doesn't require it, why aren't we investing in people and training them if they have the will and they have the drive and they want to show up for you every single day? Another thing that just made me think of is I feel like as an employee, the HR representative, maybe not the manager, but the HR director, whoever is in HR should be my most comforting relationship in the organization. Like it should feel the safest. It should feel the best, the most supported out of my manager, out of the CEO, out of my competing employees and peers and colleagues. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. First of all, it's not a blanket answer, right? And not two situations are ever two the same. But yeah, I would agree with the core of that. Absolutely. I think there's so much more that can be done and a lot more patience with the human being themselves to help them succeed at what they do. Many managers are so worried about getting it done, they forget there's a human being involved. And we have to remind him of that. Tommy in the chat said he makes no exceptions either, and that you have to provide those foundational tools, but you will come across a manager that won't get the people piece. You know, I call them country club managers. Actually, it's actually from the SHRM learning system. They're the people that walking around, hello, how you doing? Yeah, he's just happy with everybody. Then they delegate, disappear. And next thing you know, they're in your office going, I want that person gone. It's like, this is not a country club where you can come order what you want gone or what you need. We're dealing with human beings. You know, I talk about, I help an organization who pays just a touch over minimum wage. They don't pay a lot, but their average tenure is like 9.2 years. Wow. And I would say it's because of communication and teaching the managers how to be more strategic themselves, communicate with their employees in a very human way, have empathy, and they will succeed. And I go ask the employees, why do you stay? You know, the stay interview, why do you stay? Well, I'm comfortable, everything's predictable, I'm not complacent, my manager's nice, and you really can't get that anyplace else. I know when I'm going to get paid, I know my check will always be good, you know, and offering them additional education. You know, some organizations, they don't want to pay for education, this and that. Oh, they're going to get the education and leave. I said, but they'll be here while they're getting that education. You're forgetting about what they'll be able to contribute to the organization.
Yeah. Tommy also wrote, I was just curious. So for everyone who doesn't see this, he says, I make no assumptions. That's what Miss Trisha was just talking about. He said, I always provide information that they need, but I sometimes get pushback from the managers. Do you have any comments on that?
So those managers don't understand the role of human resources usually. They see us as the, I don't know, glorified administrative assistants, where all we do, they wonder what we do all day because, of course, we got nothing to do, right? We have so much to do. And sometimes with new managers and existing managers, we need to do a walk in their shoes, kind of explain to them, this is what a typical day looks like for me. And go through that, because they may not realize all the little nuances that happen behind the scenes. Just like filling out an unemployment document, that takes 10 minutes, but how many have we been getting lately? Helping somebody with their leave of absence, helping them with a struggle they're going through. Do you have a moment? Those conversations take up a lot of bandwidth and time and emotions. And for HR professionals, we need help too, because we got no one to talk to. Everything we learn in here, it's all here. It's all bottled up. I was talking to someone who is in the mental health, and I just said, what is that? They said, well, you'll look at the obesity rate in human resources a little bit higher because you're eating all of that versus talking to someone. I go, is that what the problem is? Lord, how come nobody told me 15, 20 years ago? Maybe I could have helped myself. But it's very true, because we can't share anything. We have no one else to talk to. And managers get upset that we don't tell them the whole story, but they don't understand that maybe we're not at privy to do so.
Right.
And this is why they hide information from us. It's a lack of trust.
So how would you recommend, wow, I never thought about that. How would you recommend someone in that kind of isolated role to be able to, I mean, you have to, like, your mental health needs an exit, right? You need some way, somehow. It is confidential. You're not allowed to do that. You can't get opinions. I mean, I feel like it's a jury, right? Like, you're a jury. You're part of the, what is it called when you get it in the mail? Jury duty. But what would your advice be? Like, how can we, even as employees and managers and CEOs and leadership teams, support that individual knowing that everything is pretty bottled up?
Well, I find it interesting. First of all, I used to be what they called a gym rat. I don't really know what that term is, but I was always at the gym. I had my special machines, my bike, this and that. I would look at the people doing meditation, yoga, and Pilates and just say, oh, that would put me to sleep. I've so gotten into meditation. Every morning, I'm not sitting on the floor because I don't have a plan to get up off the floor, Mel. So if I get down there, I'm not sure how I'm getting back up. But I listen to like a morning meditation every morning, the words as I'm brushing my hair or doing whatever it is I'm doing, I listen to that. But I also started talking to a professional, because sometimes you just want somebody to listen to the most ridiculous things that happen to HR at work. And you have to choose a professional, because you can't have that go anyplace, right? So by doing that, it's like downloading. I used to do it with my husband, but he, darn it, wants to fix everything. And I'm like, just listen, don't fix, just let me. And many HR people, we talk to each other. We've created our own little community. But I do think after talking to a professional about it, it was freeing. It's like I was
going to say, even if you don't get anywhere, at least it's just like they talk about journaling and the power and just getting it out of your head and onto the paper. I feel like it would be the same exact thing. As I can't imagine going through a 40-hour work week or more.
It's interesting, because I tried journaling and I was writing everything down, and so one day I went back to read it. I'm like, I have no clue what I wrote there, but it felt so good writing it down. But even in human resources, writing it down could end up being discoverable down the road. So it's like finding the right person to just have the conversation with, because sometimes another person's voice can just be soothing to the situation.
Guys, use a chat box. Let's just have you guys chime in really quick. I'm curious to see what kind of outlets do you guys use, or any comments so far as what she shared. Lots of good stuff. Any big key takeaways, we're talking workplace application, that you feel like you haven't covered, or that would really just keep blowing the minds of our viewers and myself?
So while we're waiting for those notes to come on, I will share a couple of ways that I've used to connect with my managers and leaders. One is, let's take a walk. And they're like, huh? I said, well, let's just go outside in the open air, down the block to the corner, outside of the walls of the company. Let's just take a walk. and let's talk this through, and having a conversation so they see you more as a human being, as a leader with them, versus when you're in your office, in the work environment, there might be a level of different hierarchy. When a leader comes into your office, sometimes we tend to want to stand up, or we're standing up if they're sitting down. Be cognizant of your body language, because there are certain managers, when they come to my office, I stand up when they come in. Why? I need that meeting to be over in 5 minutes. And if you're standing, it's going to be over much quicker. They get to the point much quicker. But even when they're sitting, you want to be careful not to always be standing, because it gives that feeling of hovering over that person and superiority.
Yeah.
I think having a cup of coffee, people see HR come in the room, people scatter.
Yeah.
Is that? We need to let them know we're human as well. Don't overshare, but it's okay to share. I went into a meeting one day, I dressed all in pink, and I was going through, hi Barbie. And they're just like, oh, you saw the movie? I said, yes. But I was also sharing with them I'm a human being.
Right.
And that helps them relate to who I am as a person, and not be so afraid, because they're afraid that they're going to say the wrong thing to you, and that will come back to you. Come back to them.
These aren't like crazy profound things. And so sometimes we overthink it, right? Not to discount what you're saying. There's simple things that we can do every single day to really shift the culture and the attitude and perception, like you talked about in the very beginning, on how they perceive the HR role or the manager leadership team. And it's just simple stuff. And yet I don't think we think that way. Right. We probably overcomplicate things and overthink things. And the message I'm hearing from today, and it's simple, but it's amazing, is just let them know that you're human. Meet them at a level of comfortability that opens somebody up so that you're both supported in your roles, right? Because
meet them where they are.
Yeah, meet them where they are. Because I bet you, just like the employee feels like we don't support them, we don't feel like they support us, because it's a title that not everyone thinks is a sexy, amazing, awesome title. And unfortunately, it's kind of an uphill battle from that. So, all right. One says, I find webinars like this very helpful. Thank you very much. As you learn, you're not alone. Guys, that's our goal with Bree Health and this podcast, is you guys really to bring together an inner circle of people to be able to just have this outlet once a month for an hour. So thank you for saying that. He blocks out time during the day where I'm in do not disturb mode.
Yep.
Calendar blocking, and I do it again as a mom. I'm a single mom, if you haven't figured this out yet, with a 16-year-old. So I block my own child out, you guys, because you just need that centering sometimes. So that's a very good one. I've also have an alert on my Outlook calendar reminding me to take a 30-minute walks on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Absolutely.
Don't underestimate the walk and the fresh air. And I love what you said. Take them with you on the walk. Get outside the building, remove the atmosphere of the workplace, and be somewhere different. Do it a different way. I love that. Thank you so much for that contribution.
I look at human resources as multiple hats. And I literally, at one organization that didn't understand my role, I bought in different hats. I bought in a firefighter hat, a police officer hat, a football coach hat, a ballerina hat, a teacher hat, just all these different hats. And when employees and managers alike would come in and say, Trisha, do you have a moment? Sure, what's it about, so I know which hat to wear? What it taught them is that, wow, she really is doing some other stuff.
That's so creative. I love that.
And then the employees started bringing me hats, which I didn't expect, but it became a thing of HR wears all these different hats throughout the organization. Yeah, sometimes at the block and tackle, and sometimes I have a magic wand to make everything go away. Sometimes I'm nurse. There's so many different hats we wear.
That is such a creative idea. To my team, who's going to send the free gift to everybody out the email list, we need to include that with some like little tiny graphics. That's really cool. I was thinking, I wish I could take my camera around to my bedroom. I have a hat wall. So I'm very into hats. I have lots of different types of hats, and it's all above my bed. And I was just thinking, what hat would I use? And then I was like, the cowgirl hat. And I was like, what does she have to rope in today? I was trying to think what would you, well, I would love to hear from you to include that. We send a piece of collateral to everybody after the show. What themes you would have attached to those hats that you asked them to put on, because I'm sure you have common themes that come into your office, right? The same kind of concerns, challenges, sometimes positive. It's not always negative, but those life events, let's call them, that enter into your office. I'd be curious to know what hat you would attach with the theme of the conversation that you would have.
I had so much fun with it that I also use it in reverse. Sometimes I put my hair up, I put my glasses on, and I walk out into the warehouse with a ruler. I'm the teacher, and they go, it's training time. It's like, they're like that. And sometimes I put on a nurse's hat, and they're just like, we're all doing good, to invoke conversation around the hat, right? Yeah. And depending on, there are sometimes I like the cowboy hat, sometimes I'm wearing the black hat, and sometimes I'm the bad guy, and sometimes I got on the white hat and the rhinestone belt, and I'm singing. I become a total Swiftie at the moment, So it kind of just depends. And I like what Tommy said. I am also somebody that before the pandemic, and I know we're coming up to the top of the hour here, before the pandemic, human resources and people managers, we worked hard, 50, 60 hours a week. And we're like, can't we work from home? Can't we work from home? Well, the pandemic sent us all to work from home. And guess what we did? We started working 60, 70 hours a week with no boundaries. We didn't like our same four walls, because no matter where you go in your home, it's work. And so I knew I needed to set up a place where I work, where my laptop is, and it doesn't leave that room, to have those healthy boundaries. And human resources, we need to do more of that, because we're always working, because we're afraid if we don't answer when we're needed, to think we're not doing anything. We know we are. Help people understand what we do and how we can help them.
So good. That was probably your final thoughts, but do you have any other final thoughts before we do wrap the show today? This is great stuff. So much creativity, things I would have never thought about. Guys, if you found this helpful, drop it in, give her some love before she leaves. Where can they find you if they want to connect with you? Where are you speaking next? I know you're like Miss World Tour SHRM instructor. Are you coming? You're not coming to ours here at the end of the month in Phoenix, are you?
No, I'm not going to Phoenix. I am going to Texas. I'll be in Northern California next week teaching some SHRM courses. I am speaking at SHRM-24 in Chicago. Okay. So
I keep seeing those emails come across. I need to book my ticket already.
I've been looking at it too. And then they said, oh, we need you to, I didn't even apply. They're like, we want you to come back and do that. We want to turn transactional into strategic into a workshop, which I think will be that next step for HR to learn and have the tools to be able to move from being a cleanup person to being more strategic and partnering with their leadership.
I love it. Well, hopefully I see you before SHRM-24, because that's a ways away. But I thank you again, guys. Big round of applause. We're super grateful for you being here. And everybody be on the lookout. Our team will send it within about 48 hours in your emails. So if you are watching right now on LinkedIn or YouTube, just know you don't get the free gift with all the takeaways unless you've registered through the link. So right now, Sky is going to go ahead and drop that link so you guys can register here on the Zoom account, and then you guys can look out for that piece of content. Thank you, Miss Trisha. I hope you have a big, big rest of your week, a blessed one, and we really appreciate you. See you guys.